So Sandy, I talk not for a living. That's not what I feel like I get paid for, but it is a lot of talking in what I do in a couple of different ways. Whether it's keynotes, fireside chats. I have one tonight at Lafayette College to celebrate Black History Month. Employee trainings. I had two of those in the last week, one with 372 employees logged on globally, another one with over 600. I'm always or managing employees and helping them just upskill them, develop them, get what they need to get done. I feel like I'm always in conversation, but I realize none of those conversations are usually about me and how I do things, and that's generally the scariest thing for me to talk about.
I agree. So I would say that to a certain degree, I do get paid to speak, to workshop, to train, consulting and guiding clients. And because of that, I find, especially lately, I shy away from talking in personal settings. And that can be with friends, family, just because I'm tired, I'm exhausted. But I also find that that is usually the place where there's most curiosity, especially since I've been in such a transitional place in life. So I feel like I want to feel the discomfort of having what I call girlfriend conversations, which I love so much, maybe in a recorded session and share.
I love that. It's interesting how you frame that, because I do think that there are elements of what you share that I do as well, but I never look at it as getting paid to speak. I look at speaking as a medium, but all of the work is happening before the speaking actually occurs. So I never, I see people put online threads or tweets like, calling all public speakers. And I'm like, I'm not a public speaker. So it's really interesting how the framing always feels really different for me, because I'm never really talking about myself. I'm always talking about a framework or some research that my team did on a particular topic, a mindset. And today I did want to talk to you about a couple of things. I wanted to talk about mindset and reframes. I also wanted to talk about just other things as I'm looking always to level up. And I look at you, I look at a lot of people in my circle, and especially you, as those who are leveled up in different ways. Like, I think we can always be in this space of learning from each other about how you get in the zone, about how you have leveled up yourself. What are some of those habits? And I think they're even more important now as you've had some different transitions. So let's start there. What have been the biggest habit changes since you've entered this new phase and season of life?
My day is shifted. That's first and foremost. So I have to get the day started much earlier. And then also my days are so much more structured. So I look at almost my day in half-hour chunks, especially the morning and then also the evening. So I'm not part of the 5 a.m. club, not quite there yet, but the 6:30 a.m. club. And that is preparing for the day. Now, DJ is in school, so we have to get ready to be out the door by a certain time. And getting out the door doesn't just mean dropping him off at school. He's now enrolled in Montessori school, and that can be a whole nother topic of conversation, because I did a lot of research in order to decide, where do we place him, daycare or school? But from there, my day starts. So also preparation. What does it look like for him to be ready for the day so that I can also be ready for the day without interruption? So getting the day started earlier, structured. I live by my calendar. If it is not on the calendar, this was true before, but now it's true even more. If it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. And if I forget to put it on the calendar, it's definitely not happening, because my day is so structured. It's also hard for me to add anything to the day once the day has started. So I've set boundaries around that as well. And having focus days. Like Mondays are going to go this way. Maybe on Mondays, I'll think more about business development. I think business development happens every day, but Monday is that day where people are still trying to catch up. So it's a great day for me to just have quiet time to think and to reach out to people. And then also the gym. So that is one thing that I'm unapologetic about. That's my gift to self, is an appointment that I will not cancel on the calendar, or I try not to as much as possible. I have my classes at the gym that I am loyal to, kickboxing. Yes, I do put on the boxing gloves, and the hair is in a bun. It isn't always pretty, but we get in there and I have to sweat. It's not a workout unless I bust out a sweat or two or three. And then I have the energy to keep the day going. And little man is done at school from 4 to 4:30. That's also when the nanny kicks in, because I don't do it all by myself, nor pretend, nor desire to do it on my own. I outsource many things. So although I'm home and I'm still working, I have help to look after him while he's running around, and he is in bed by 7 o'clock. And yeah, and then evening, we shift to evening, which also means preparation for the next day. But now I've also created time and space for myself to also step out there. I want to be back out in the world in person. So that is a big shift that I'm currently experiencing, is that I've also created structure for me to be out there.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I love that. What you're saying makes me think of, and I know people with kids hate when people with pets make the comparison.
I
But
actually don't care.
okay, cool. Because when I first got Rock, that forced a structure on me. Rock is a
Mhm.
clock. You know, dogs have a circadian rhythm. They wake up at the same time every day, force me outside. I will say, as he's getting a little older and we're into each other more, he doesn't do the 6 a.m. wake ups like he used to, and does rely, I mean, as soon as I move, he's moving, but it does rely on me to have structure more. And I will say my structure comes in waves. I have had moments where I am like to the T. Just, I must journal at this time. I must hit the gym at exactly this time, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm not really in that phase right now. I do still feel like I have quite a lot of structure. I got an office space this year outside of my apartment because I felt
Ooh, that's huge.
it was huge. It was huge. And it was like, not just in having an office, but every stage of having a business, I do think I have these moments where I'm like, holy crap, like I never thought I'd be here. Like I remember when I first quit and I was looking at space, I thought just shared desk, open desk was just way too expensive for me. So to be in the space where we now have an office does feel like a wow moment. Like I'm having these mama, I almost made it moments every other day. But so that's that. I do go into the office 3 times a week. I do have weekly space for therapy. I do have weekly time for moving my body. It's just now I'm not so much in the structure habit part of where it's like 6 a.m. here, 7 a.m. here. It's more, did I get this done today?
Right.
And I appreciate that flexibility, although sometimes I'm like, it might be time to kind of revert back to the daily structure. On that note, then tell me a little bit about, what does being in the zone mean for you and how do you get into it?
Yeah, but you know, you need a little bit of both, right? You need the daily structure, you need the weekly structure, and then you need the monthly structure and the quarterly structure. And that's something that when I am in work mode, talking to the people, I reference often that I live by the 12-week year. Which is that every quarter is a year, and I goal set in that way. And if you do that, then you get more done in a quarter than most people do in a year. And maybe that's a topic of conversation within itself. But if you look at every 3 months, and this is why I'm constantly speaking in quarters, I'm like Q1, Q2, Q3, and then setting goals and then celebrating at the end of the quarter like you would for New Year's Eve. And you celebrate yourself by buying something that you really want, or treating yourself to a trip or a lovely dinner experience to keep yourself motivated and prepared for the next quarter. But in terms of mindset and like creating the environment for the day, so I have transitional periods, right? So I'm going from in my workout clothes, my athleisure, which I also think should be cute for the gym.
Mhm.
to I mostly work from home to transitioning to work from home. And one of the things I started doing during the pandemic is showing up for the office, whether it is home or outside, in a some way consistent frame or way. So I put on perfume just to come into the home office. And depending on my mindset or where I am, I also pick my fragrances based on that as well. So if I have a big meeting and I'm like, okay, I need this to go well, or if I'm a little bit nervous about something, then I go for Good Fortune.
Mm.
And I have it right here because I was like, today's one of those days. It's Monday. What is it?
Who makes Good Fortune? I never heard of that one.
Victor Rolf. I have a little travel size one here. Yep. So I'll put it right in my purse. If I have a speaking engagement, a little Good Fortune for good luck.
You're so like the epitome of, I know you didn't do pageants, but you could have done pageants with me because you are such a.
I mean, you definitely look pageant right now. Okay.
It's so funny. I don't always feel like that. I know she's in there somewhere, that pageant girl, but sometimes I'm just so in like business, get it done, work mode. It kills that vibe for me a little bit. And I like that you are bringing your romance, your femininity, your all of that with you, because I have to remind myself to be that vibe, and it translates into so many things, right? So for example, sometimes I'll hop on calls with people and I forget that I'm charming because I've just had to like sit through a call where a contract that took care of someone's whole salary got ended, sit through another call where a proposal that I was really excited about, I didn't get, right? And so it's like, and then sometimes good news too, but good news that creates more work. So it's like I'm jumping from thing to thing. And then when I have to go meet with people, I'm just like, what do you want? What's the business? Let's get it done. Let's get it done. And I've had to remind myself that one of my strengths is a little bit of that woo, even though I don't show up very high. Yeah. Clifton strengths, you can get all of your strengths. My number one is actually competition. Woo is way down on the list for me, but I still think it's high. I think I have that woo when I want to. I just never feel like I have enough energy to turn it on. So part of me getting in the zone lately is like imploring some of those coaching skills and releasing the drama or the distraction, the devastation sometimes of the previous call, and reminding myself like, no, you can be charming, turn it on, woo them, and make this a whole new energy. And I think those pieces, like having the perfume next to me or putting on lipstick and wearing my hair done for no apparent reason, me rechannel that woo. It's like I am that bubbly pageant girl in there, although I'm also that business owner that's having to make really tough decisions and advocate for my employees or advocate for the employees of my clients in some cases. How do I still bring that woo in there? And I like that.
You know what? Part of that woo is how you show up. So I know that you have a keynote or a fireside chat later today. And a big part of that is how you show up. And right now you are showing up with all the woo.
Yeah.
And I also think that you showing up in all your femininity, but still being stern, still being concise, and still being sure, and also still fighting in the way that you do, also adds a dynamic and a perspective, because you can be all of these things. You can be assertive with the woo. So let people see that. So yeah, I know you might think that you don't always bring it, but you do in the way that you show up.
Yeah. That's really helpful and encouraging. I appreciate that because I do think that it can be really easy to get in your head and be really hard on yourself. And I always say we don't see ourselves. That's probably something I'm saying like once a week. We just don't see ourselves, and that's for good or bad, right? We don't see our our hidden areas of opportunities. That's actually the correct way to say it. We don't see those. We also don't see our strengths. We don't see what sets us apart and what we do really well. And that can lead to a lot of internal critique, Which brings me to something else that you and I have been talking about a lot. And I said this yesterday. I was talking to a small business owner who in Harlem, Justine at the Good Good, love her.
Mhm.
We're chatting about just reactions to everything going on since the start of this year, uh, with the climate that we're in. And one of the things I said to her was, if nothing else, what this has done for me this season, with so many shifts in government, is it has reminded me that I have no reason to fall under the delusion that I should have imposter syndrome ever again.
Oh my God.
So, that's the silver lining in all of the headache of all of this. And I know this is something we talk about a lot. So tell me a little bit about how you're staying sane in this world that's affecting our work. Like I said, I've lost contracts that cover full salaries of employees. Help me understand how you're framing this for yourself. Mindset is really important always, but now more than ever in this turbulent time. What's the talk track for you in your mind about all of this?
Yeah. So first of all, yes, imposter syndrome, it's a thing. But what I have said to self often is I need to have more audacity, because the audacity that exists in the way that people ask, propose, tell you what things are and how they should go, there is audacity there. And many times we are trying to be too prepared, have too many things to back up what we're trying to do, trying to propose. But we say also that if you deliver things with confidence, sometimes people aren't even paying attention to what you're saying, just in the way that you're delivering it. So I just keep telling myself, I need to have more audacity. And if I'm asking for something, like, be a little bit more outrageous and just put it out there. But in terms of how I am staying sane, I have days where I just don't listen to the news. And yes, we need to stay current. And unfortunately, there are too many people who just don't know what's going on, are misinformed. That's how we got here. Misinformation, and people just not searching for information in order to make the right decisions for themselves, instead of just listening to what other folks are doing and saying and then following along. But I do have my quiet days where I just can't listen to any of it because it creates anxiety, it creates confusion. Things aren't changing, they're changing from one day to the next, and that is a full-time job. Trying to keep up with decisions that are happening, taking place, doing and undoing from one day to the next. And then that takes us away from the work that we're actually trying to do. Now, that's not the answer for every day, because I know that you and I are both in a position of providing perspective, guidance, and solutions to our clients. So where I have been the last 2 weeks, and yes, this is ever changing, is seeing opportunity and opportunity. Things are ambiguous. We're in an ambiguous state right now. Things are a little confusing. People are feeling fear. But from a consulting perspective, I am looking at the opportunities that the marketplace is creating. Yes, there are things that are being shut down left and right, or the proposal of things being shut down left and right. But I say and I see that it's also creating opportunity. From a workforce perspective, one, there will be a workforce because things still need to be done. Companies still need to employ people to get things done, and they're still going to need some kind of support. And right now, I think the workforce needs more support than ever. Also, because it is an employer's market, those who are looking to get back into the workforce to a certain degree also need the guidance. They need some coaching from C-suite coach to figure out how to rebrand themselves, how to pivot, and how to get back in there. Organizations who are losing funding, they need support in strategy, in reframing, in rewording, whatever you have to do to stay in the game. Because the worst part is not even being there to also be able to impact the direction in which things go. So I sometimes have to slow down and pull all the way back and disconnect, just like I do in my personal life, in order to come back refreshed and with some kind of gain perspective. And the other thing is just trying to listen and understand where everyone sits and stands. I don't have to agree with it. It doesn't have to be my way of doing things, but just getting an understanding of it, because where we are, half the country believed something different than I did. And that is not something to ignore. That is something to actually look into and learn from and figure out, how do you add that into the path forward?
Yeah. Yeah. That last piece just makes me think so much about how I've grown and how much the work that we do has helped me to grow. Because I remember being young, my 20 year is coming up for my high school reunion. I know, it's crazy. And I went to a high school.
We don't look it, so it's good.
We don't. I feel great. But I went to a high school where I was one of the only, and it was a really isolating experience often. I got called the N-word the first time when I was in 7th grade. I had a student hit me in the face, and then I almost got suspended over it. And just a lot of challenges navigating and being in that space. I got asked if I was in a gang on a regular. And I remember that my reaction to so much of the ignorance I was encountering was just straight up anger. I was angry. I was ready to fight back all the time, but misinformed fighting back, right? Like no pause, no gathering of my thoughts, no collecting, just like, let's just go. You want to hit me, we're going to war. And I think that with the experiences moving on through college, through grad school, through working corporate, and now in leading a business, I've learned so much about how to be diplomatic, how to really leverage active listening and pausing to understand what's laying beneath what people are saying that we may perceive as just, this is a completely misinformed thought, this is super ignorant, let's butt heads, let's go to war with each other. And it's really changed my perspective on how to create windows in places that seem like there should only be walls. And that has not only improved my life personally, but it also, when we talk about staying sane in all this, it gives me hope. It gives me hope that we can appeal to each other's humanity and find ways to create the world that we want for our future, for DJ, for my nephew, and that's really important to me. And so I'm looking at that. I also like what you said about knowing that there is always going to be opportunity. So I met with my advisor, Chris. I love Chris. I met with him.
Chris. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris. One thing he said was that since the year started, he gets asked, how are you holding up? Like probably the other day. And he's like, he took a step back and he was like, and I realized that every time that conversation happens, my morale drops just a little. And I think that there's this expectation. It is hard. We are in a hard moment. Everybody knows it. But the more we feed the energy into what's hard, the less we're feeding energy into finding the way out of this moment and the way forward and where there is opportunity. And you called out, we're going to need training of workforce. We're going to keep needing opportunities to help companies be agile as there's a lot of shift and changes in how they're doing things. AI, the whole workforce needs training on AI right now. There's a huge opportunity there for us in so many different ways. So I think having that pause and having that focus before just feeding into the anger has helped a lot with me being able to stay sane, lead effectively, right? Because if I'm frantic and in disarray and the world's falling apart every time there's a new article about a DEI program ending, then my employees are going to be in disarray and having a hard time staying motivated. And I think part of showing up as a leader is really being grounded in purpose and in mission, and using that as a pathway to keep those around us feeling stable and motivated as well.
Wow. Can I just quote you? Because I had to write this one down. And those who know me and have seen my workspace know that I like affirmations and stickers, but creating windows in places where there should only be walls. Whew.
Yeah.
Bust it down, create the window.
So
To the wall.
I'm in real 20 years past high school right now. But yeah.
That's so
grand.
good. Yeah.
I would say, and I think that's just the biggest thing that's changed about, I know at least for me, and maybe you can relate to this too, in the last 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, even I would say since as recently as since the pandemic, is that mindset shift and really working on those mind reframes. And that enhances relationships, it enhances business, it shifts friendship and perspective. So just that's an area I want to dive into more deeply with you going forward, is just thinking about how do we get to the place of those mindset reframes and allow space for that.
I love that. And it requires self-awareness. You have to know yourself. You have to be aware of even your energy shifts and language that can lead to energy shifts. Like, how are you holding up? Who's telling you that I'm down? And being prepared also with the response so that you can also educate and inform someone else who might be using language that is also not so positive.
I love that. I'm tweeting that. That's good.
Who told you I was down?
Okay. Bars. Okay, so the next time we talk, one area that I want to talk to you about, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is just friendship. And we talked before about this idea, maybe 2 years ago, we talked about this idea of no new friends, and how I'm a native New Yorker, which means I walk around with an ice girl on my face. And so, but it's not true. I'm a softie. I'm a very sensitive softie. It's just, I'm a slow burn, and I've learned to be discerning. So it takes me, I'm not an instant best friend person. I need to trust and build trust. But a lot has shifted in how I view friendship over the last couple of years. And I want to hear your perspective on that more. So next time we talk, that's the number one thing I want to talk to you about, is as you think about some of these mindset reframes that you've had, as you've experienced life differently, as you become a mom even, what are your new thoughts on how you approach friendship, what it really means to be a good friend, and what you need out of friendship also?